Okay. This is where we find out. It doesn't look like they're resetting. Okay. Apologies, everyone, because I am playing with things as we go. Oh, can I do this? Reset? Yay. All right. Now we can continue with the stream. Okay. Hey, Desiree. Merry Christmas. I just want to play with relatively new characters, so let's just grab a couple recent ones I've picked up. Let's do it. Well, that's a good start. The only question is if I should get buff corn instead. I think I'm going to grab buff corn instead. I know keep it going is nuts, but buff corn tends to be more fun in my opinion. Buddy. He's just going to be insane for like 7 rooms. And then we'll actually start having enough hacks that he'll stay insane. This is going to be fun. Hey, Cypher. Thanks for stopping by. Talk to you later. Lulu, stop that. Dog. Hi, girl. Nice to see the first Deathless in action. Yeah, she's fun. She's very simple. I know too simple to some people, but I'm having fun. Also, let me know how volume and all of that stuff is. I've changed a couple things about my setup since before Christmas. Cool, that should be simple enough. Critical damage is pretty cracked for this group. So is regular crit rating, but I think this is what we want. Volume is all good. Glad to hear. Ooh, I haven't set her stat focus. I literally just pulled her last night. Yeah, there's no... I was gonna say, there's no way that lands. But I was curious. Hey, Magnus. Welcome, Governor. Thanks, John. Just playing around with some stuff. I've been meaning to do things like this for a while. My brother bought me a Stream Deck for Christmas, and so I have a couple very rudimentary things set up. This little toggle. Um, and so I decided to try and level up as a streamer. Lord knows I've, excuse me, waited long enough. Although it is funny that Stream Elements can't process YouTube's emojis at all. We'll just have to forgive it that. If we do give in to pressure to put something on her special one, I would vote for a single guaranteed degen personally. Onslaught should have reverse controls immunity. I have already had this. I'm not saying you're yelling at me, but I've already had this yelled at me once, Virge. I don't really agree. He has psychic shielding. I think that's enough of a nod. There is a limit of how far we should go in respecting the lore, and I think Onslaught has more than enough utility without that immunity on top of it. I understand why you say it, but I don't think it's an automatic. So I know Adam Warlock is good. Could you explain why a little bit? His sovereignty buff gives him a lot of immunities and utility that most cosmics don't have. He has really solid sustain via his pod. Um, and he just does an incredible amount of damage while staying unblockable. That's kind of the crux of it. I mean, you saw how strong his pod was there, and it gets better as his sig goes up. He's pretty nuts. That's unfortunate. I didn't mean to block that, but it really threw us. Back up. Back up. Raven, back up. Raven is definitely not an ideal matchup for him. That was pretty fun. Does he need Sig? No, not for damage, but it does give him a nice little bit of sustain. You wish his pod did more on Awakened? I have to make some light fun of you, John. Where is this? All incoming damage is reduced by 75%, instantly regenerates 74% of any of that damage that comes through. Meaning your incoming damage is cut by a factor of 4 and then again by another factor of more than 4 because that's increased by recovery. So if you're keeping track of that, that means that your incoming damage is shrunk to 25 and then down pretty much to 5%. So you're actually taking 5% of incoming damage, and the ability accuracy of damaging debuffs and heal block goes down, and you get energy protection that gives you immunity to a bunch of dots. That's a lot unduped. Like, the regen is nice, sure, but he's really good. You shouldn't have gotten that notification, Gubber. That's interesting. Because what I'm playing with lately is YouTube has a setting now that allows you to, instead of like normally when I would schedule my videos before, I would upload them and they would be private until they were scheduled to go out, right? And that video is scheduled for Friday morning, I think. YouTube now has a setting where instead of being private for that time, they're members only. But that means that it shouldn't have sent you a notification. Because right now only my channel members can see it. So that's weird, but I appreciate you asking because that's something to look into. Hey, Wolf, how's it going? So I don't need to give him a gem. Is he worth it? I don't know. I think if I had a surplus of gems, I probably would, just because a little bit of regen can go a long way. I wouldn't prioritize it if I had other cosmics to take up. I agree, Scott. I think that is really, really well put. Um, a lot of people tend to just kind of complain about Adam and say he's too AI dependent, but Scott really nailed an important thing there, which is that the purpose of the pod is to bridge that gap. And when the AI is not going to play into you, you use it as a get out of jail free card and it bridges things over. And then that should allow you to close out the fight. Sometimes you do truly get, screwed enough that that doesn't work, but often it's more than enough. How'd I fare on the Guardians crystals? Pretty good overall, given this. I didn't get Sandman, I didn't get Professor X, I didn't get Diablo. And I probably would have traded one of those Adam pulls for any of those three. Um, but I got Moondragon, I duped Shocker, and I triple duped Adam, so I'm not about to complain. Half of our alliance was running Adam in AQ. That's cool. Nah, I don't agree with you at all there, Black Hole. You need a taunt. Like I've seen that suggestion a lot. As someone who playtested multiple versions of Adam before he went live, he would be significantly worse with an Infuriate. And let me kind of unpack that, because the reason that people like Infuriates is because you can get intercepts, right? And I know some people particularly like the fact that Infuriate can feel a little bit like a taunt. But the reason Infuriate feels a little bit like a taunt is because if the AI is dashing at you, if the AI is being aggressive, they're more likely to be close more often. And when the AI is close, it's more likely to throw specials. But if it were an Infuriate and not a taunt, you would also have a lot of times where you completely lose your counter because the AI is dashing forward and doing like medium, light, light, or whatever, and then maybe throwing a special. That's fine when you are anybody else, but Adam is too sensitive for that. He needs the taunt. Now, if you want to say that the AI is light intercepting too much right now, I would agree with you, but that is completely separate from Adam's design. His design should not be made worse just because of weirdness in the AI. Ouchie. Yeah, Adam has an absurdly long info page, John. I do get why you say that though, because like I said, a little bit of regen goes a very long way. All right, let's get rid of this crossfight. I hear you there, Black Hole. So am I. That's not what I meant to do. Okay, throw your thing. Impact Purge is fun. Compounding Harm is fun. Teal'c and Gilly with armor breaks sounds pretty good. Teal'c with Nullify via Impact Purge is also pretty good. I think I'm going to take the Impact Purge. Yeah, certainly a bit of that, Scott. More Craven. He's been popular today. That's fine. That's fine. We are pushing pretty standard, Scott. Hey, Sap, how's it going? What's the verdict on Deathless Gilly? That depends on who you ask. I like her. I think she's fun. I think she's as advertised, but there are some people who strongly disagree. Who gets my vote for best champ of the year? Well, obviously, I think all of my own are instantly disqualified. That was my fault. I love how I said all of mine are disqualified, and then Kate decides to do this. It's nothing personal. Um, but if we're just doing like raw power, I think I'd probably give it to future Ant-Man. Yes, John, he absolutely would be too strong. We were just talking about how the pod allows him to kind of break the to bridge the gaps in his own rotation. But if he was allowed to bridge all of the gaps in his rotation, then he would just be as strong as he is without any downsides. And that's scary. Yeah, I've seen the multiple onslaughts. Funny stuff. Well, I haven't given either of them relics yet. I can't actually do that here. Which I should, because both of them are going to be fantastic in the meta tomorrow. Yeah, let's go do that real quick. All right, do I have a spare Ghost Rider relic I'm not really using? Maw keeps his. OG Guillotine does not need that one. That was somewhere else. I think that was on Mojo or something. Maybe not if that one's on Purgatory. Maybe it was on Mojo, but he's a bit lower down. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. All right, make sure it's optimized. Yes, vicious, fish. Yeah, it's good. Cool. And then what would be good for Chiel? Maybe I'll grab this Black Panther one. Just because Shang-Chi is not going to be good in Battlegrounds this season. If I could buff one champ from the ground up, who would I pick? If we're talking literally from the ground up, as in the Iron Man treatment with new art and a new model, Magic. And I realize a lot of people are going to go, hold on, that's not a buff, that's not a nerf. It's a buff if it allows her to actually be usable. And rather than just being a broken old power control machine, I would love to see a Magic in the game that actually feels modern. That like has gameplay pulled from Midnight Suns with creative use of portals outside the special 3, like momentum built via throwing through portals. There's so many cool things you could do. There's so many cool things you could do with Magic that we're not doing just because of how stupid Power Lock is. How did the Iron Man experiment go? It's a good question, Min, but I don't think I'm really like I don't have exact data, and if I did, I probably wouldn't be allowed to share it. I think well, but the question is, of course, how well, right? Yeah, I agree, Scott. It's been fun to chase different characters and not just sit around and wait for them to slowly make their way through the Titan pool. Well, that seems pretty. Oh, both of these sound very good. I'm going to take the special refund because I imagine we're probably going to use more and more of Adam as we go. Um, both of those. That's very flattering, Scott. Unfortunately, I think there are, even if Scott is correct and that attaching me to it would make people feel better, which I think is a little bit more flattery than truth. Um, Even if that was true, I think there are far too many people who play this game who have no idea who I am and who very much understand something that they consider theirs changing. So I don't think that the higher ups would be willing to buy that. It seems fine. That is a complicated question, Min. I've answered it before, but it is a good one. I will get to that after this next fight. I do agree, Scott. I think that the Red Guardian buff looks quite good. And while I have seen some anger over the tuning changes we announced, I'm pretty sure him being better in Battlegrounds is going to be more than enough of a trade. Would obviously go much better if my Chioth were duped, but I'm not going to complain about that. Oh, you know what I should do is throw some heavies for Impact Purge. Fine. Okay, so what do I think of the take that Kabam should have Quake and Magic keep their current kits for the existing rarity and a new kit for higher rarities? I think it is a great idea if you think that this game has only a year or two left. If, as we have said, and I believe, you think this game has significantly more than that left if we play our cards right. If you think this game can last for 5 or 10 years or more than that, I think it is a terrible idea. Because if the game lasts that long, we're going to have literally thousands of new players picking up the game in between now and then who will play through and have Quake and Magic at 4 and 5 star, start to rely on them, learn their kits, and then have the rug pulled out from under them. I don't think that that is something that we should allow to happen. I think that that is very much not the direction our game should take. Hey, Joey, how's it going? Hey, Omega. When will we see more mutant buffs? I mean, one has been teased, but yeah, we're going to see more. Excuse me. We're definitely going to see more of them. You may not have heard me say this before, but I have explained that the reason we're getting 2 science buffs now when we, quote, don't need them is because a lot of the buffs that come out in the game start as passion projects and are then slotted into release. And both Red Guardian and Luke were passion projects a full year ago. And so just most of the work not only is done, but has been done. And so see them as biding or as buying some time for mutants. Oh, you jerk. I should have caught that from Feet of Power, though. That's why Adam's good. That was a really good showcase right there at the end. Oh. Slowly working my way through the Odin Path Necropolis, was watching your streams. Nice. Hope that's going well for you. Ideally better than it went for me, but I know it's a tough path. How much input did Vega have on Kashala? Probably more than he exercised, if that makes any sense. Like Vega understood that there was a limit on how much direct control he could have just because he wasn't the one doing the coding. He wasn't the one tasked with, like, hey, this is where we want somebody to fit in the meta. He wasn't the one running the playtests or defending her in design reviews, etc. Right? There's a certain amount that not being on point takes away from what you can do. But we talked a lot in that first, like, I don't know, month and a half of her development or so. Like basically every time I finished doing some changes or some playtesting or a design review or something, like we'd either get on a call or I'd send him some voice messages on Discord and then he'd send me some back. And I definitely took it to heart where he was like, okay, that sounds really good. I really like that part. Like, I took that as, okay, if this is really fitting with not only does it sound good to me, but it fits with what you're imagining for the character too, then to me, that was like, this is something to defend. If the kit isn't working, we'll have to change things, but this we hold on to, right? Because we're on the same page for that. There were some things where he was like, how is that going to work with blank? And like, I'm forgetting specific examples right now, but then that was like, okay, often he wouldn't necessarily insist that X was needed to be fixed or whatever, but him just trying to like walk through how would I use this character when she actually comes to the game was very helpful for me smoothing things out. Um, he definitely tried not to make specific requests, but he caught himself walking in the direction of a couple a few times, and I did take it seriously, right? If I could incorporate it, then I did. And I have said before, the passives that she has, he definitely gets a fair amount of credit for. I consider him the direct inspiration for those. What does Deathless Guillotine do exactly? When she crits, she degens the opponent. She has access to Spectre, and she does bigger yellow numbers when she kills the opponent quickly. That's about it. Oh, and if she's duped, she heals, but that's for later. That's pretty annoying. I think that's fine. The goal is for the 7-star pool to stay good forever, John. It's like it is possible that we will feel like we're running out of solid champs to throw in, but we are trying to make a real good pace. Um, like we do still have characters that are clear candidates for Titan releases, and at the same time, theoretically, if we were perfect with rebalancing, then we would be able to buff characters at about the cadence they would need to go into the Titan pool. So between those two things, I think we'll be able to hold on to it. I will also say I do think that there are probably going to be characters going into the Titan pool that the community will scoff at and that they will be wrong to scoff at. An example that comes to mind for me off the top of my head would be Super Scroll. I think there are a lot of people who would be very sad to pull a Super Scroll, but I also know that there are almost no people who have tested him with full combat power. And I think as a 7-star with stat focus, he could really start cooking. I'm not saying he's going to be in one soon, but he's an example of someone who I think actually would be an inclusion, but I know there would be whining about it. Yeah, Jabari's another good example. That's very annoying. That was also an excellent example of why an Infuriate is not as good as a taunt, because there, that was acting more like an Infuriate. Considering the timeline for buffs, do they also get announced when the designer has time to look at balancing numbers like with Red Guardian? I may not fully understand your question, but if you're asking, it's like, do we not throw buffs into the pipeline until we've had time to at least start to look at their numbers? Yes, that is accurate. To speak on the Red Guardian thing a little bit, it's that's just such a difficult relationship because like I want to preface this with I'm not upset with the CCP, and I realize that's an ominous preface, but walk with me for a minute. Um because think of it from Kabam's standpoint for a second. We outlined a process where the idea is okay, we'll come up with a preliminary buff, we'll put it on the beta, it'll be tested, we can then change it to make it more appropriate for final release, then we release it. And we now have several take care, Scott. Thanks for hanging out. We now have several data points that suggest if we come in low on a buff, like with Spider-Man, it doesn't actually matter where they get by their final form. It doesn't matter how good they are. The community is going to go, that buff sucks. Failed buff. Not worth it. We also have data points that if we come in high, like with Sandman or with Red Guardian, then the narrative becomes that we nerfed the buff and that we didn't do enough testing and that basically that we just like didn't do our jobs and this is unacceptable, right? And again, I'm not putting this narrative on the CCP. You may have heard some things along these lines from CCP members, and I get it, but like I'm not putting that narrative on the CCP. I'm saying that's more what we get from the community as a whole. So if the community response to us coming in low is negative, and the community response to us coming in high is negative, then we kind of have to get the tuning almost exactly right before we put it on the beta. At which point, what is the beta doing for us at Kabam? And now you can come up with a couple obvious quote fixes for that, right? It's like, we'll just make the embargo a lot longer and make sure that the people don't make videos on the first draft so that nobody gets their hopes up, right? And then you actually have time to do the buffs. But the CCP is the content creator program. The CCP is not our private bank of playtesters. Most of them have no incentive to do any testing at all if they can't get footage for videos. How much testing are we actually going to get before the embargo? And if we don't get enough testing before the embargo, then maybe we won't catch something that we need to catch. And then we are right back in the same place. And again, I don't think that that's the CCP's fault. I think that this setup isn't fair to them the same way that it's not fair to us. And I don't have a quick fix for it. But if something in that pipeline changes sometime in the next year, you'll understand why. It's just tough. Taskmaster would be cool. He's very scary to buff, though. Like, I agree he's not good enough now, but he's a lot closer to how on earth did Kabam release this broken character than you might think. Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate that. I'm very happy with how Kashala came out. And yeah, I did go pretty hard on the Paragons without getting anything, and that's why I now have 5 Abyss Nexuses waiting for when she goes into the basic pool. Yeah, Omega, I imagine. Now, I will say Rintra is in a pool that is, I think, a little bit more likely to spawn as you get up into the rooms, but yeah, feels sometimes like he's a bit too common for sure. Hey, Infamous, how's it going? If the designer's availability is a factor for which one goes first, it definitely is, yeah. Because there's a difference between I've done the paper design and I've done the paper design. I've had like at least one play test. I've run through this with other people. I've done the coding and the implementation, and I have time to clean up the info page. Like, going from almost ready to ready is actually still quite a bit of work. That's awesome, Black Hole. I'm glad Spidey's growing on you. I think he's very good. Hey, Vantage. Got Moondragon twice. Nice. Yeah, I also got Moondragon twice, but not on the same account. I opened one of those crystals on my alt, and that's who I got there. So she is my first 7-star on that account. It's fun. Ooh, 30% attack rating for Cheelth is pretty nuts. Hey, Punjabi, how's it going? Happy holidays. Are the opponents in incursion rooms not entirely random? I mean, they're as random as anything is. um, there are pools that are weighted a little bit, right? That's why, like, you'll see Black Bolt in Sector 1, but not in Sector 7. I think that much is fair to say. And it's the same way that, like, certain characters, like Absorbing Man or Gallon, just aren't in the pools at all. Okay, that's quite good for Cheelth. What do you do? That's also fine. Do you do anything stupid? No. OG Black Widow and Doctor Strange? Yeah. Doctor Strange definitely got over nerfed. So did Black Widow, I think, but seeing how nuts Falcon is, she still spooks me a little bit. Yeah, Moondragon is really good. I like her a lot. Yeah, Black Widow is definitely a solid Titan candidate. She's not that special, but oh my god, she would do so much damage. I mean, keep in mind, John, that a lot of people's meta attackers in war are also nukes. Sandman is not the fastest in war at low sig, but I don't think he's that slow. He was built as a utility champ, right? He has some of the easiest access to petrify in the entire game, and he has three extremely relevant immunities. And I think his damage is fantastic once it gets up there. I think he's great. I'm okay with not everybody agreeing. Animations are on the table, but it's not the first thing that we reach for, Black Hole. Because that's something like most other things we go and we just tweak a line of coding. That is us going to the art team and asking them to change things. It can change. Like Kate Bishop's special one knockback got changed a little bit at one point. If you may remember, she used to, when the opponent was at the wall, the arrow would pretty much always be inside the opponent, and that got changed so that she's further away. That was more cosmetic. It is possible to change those things. But yeah, definitely not every time. We'll see what happens if Chioth does end up needing another look. Oh yeah, that's brutal, Omega. I'm having fun. I will say that you can get around the sumo pool card. You just need there to not be a fury, but depending on other nodes and your hacks, that may or may not have been possible. You'll buff Sentry eventually. I do think he's on the list somewhere, yeah. Game sounds are rather goofy. Does that mean you think they're too loud, or are you just commenting in general? It does sound like an idol. Shields with power stings sounds pretty crazy, but Adam getting poison on every hit sounds crazier. We're taking Toxic Advance. Oh, you don't have to sell me Vantage. Ooh, Adam with Perpetual Offense also sounds nuts. Yep, let's do that. Nah, we don't do lore power scaling Vantage. That way lies madness. Yay, unblockable Darkhawk. Adam's probably okay at that, honestly. Master Ultron. Seriously? Yeah, let's do that. Oh, Howard, that's fair. Is the sound team not as developed as the art team? What I should necessarily say on that. I know that our sound is. I won't say. I don't think it's fair to say it's not as developed, but I will say it's not subject to the same review process. The sound comes in later on, after most of the other work is done. Whereas, like with art, we have a couple reviews for both animation and then also for VFX with several members of the art team and then the designer for that character present. So there is a bit less oversight on the sound, yeah. Oh, I just started with these three and stuck with them in. This is only Sector 4. We don't need to go ham on optimal play. This poison is pretty nuts. Hey, John, how's it going? Yeah, Toad would have been my top choice too. Although saying Toad doesn't need his SIG is a little bit disingenuous in my opinion. Toad benefits a ton from SIG 1. Excuse me. I go back and forth, Timo. Because, like, on the one hand, yeah, Onslaught looks really cool. And on the other hand, it's like, why does he look like a Gundam cartoon? It's, I don't know. It kind of depends on how it's hitting me today. Caltrops, Aegis Intercept, Terminal Velocities, Zemo. That sounds pretty brutal. Like, technically, Angela can do that. Doesn't sound fun. Nice, Ice. Yeah, Adam is really good. I thought Sovereign wasn't supposed to be able to be power stolen. Or Fate's sealed. Am I forgetting something? Cannot be fate sealed. Ah, by champions. That's it. I always forget. Even I forget. Oops. I would have played a little more carefully. I want to clarify, even I is not suggesting I am better. I am just living in this on a different frequency. Should I rank 5 Fury or Kate for Battlegrounds? Probably depends on if you feel like you don't have attackers or you don't have defenders more often. I took up Kate first, but Fury is a wall. Very helpful. Rank 5 Gallon over rank 2 Duped Adam Warlock. Hmm. I think I'd invest in the 7-star. Adam is good enough, especially with the dupe. I think that's worth going for the long-term option. What exactly do you mean about reverse class advantage champions, John? Oh god. Void with the ability to inflict stuns doesn't sound fun. Like, Cheel should be fine for that, but sounds kind of gross. No, there is no links between that stuff and Atch. I think that's just confirmation bias. And if we had that tech, we would probably be using it to make it so that the hacks you pick are more synergistic rather than trying to punish you. Rude. Truly insane. Like, should I just use Adam instead? Nah, this is what Shield is built for. Is it on the table from a design perspective to make more champions that have reverse class advantages and ability like Forge having class advantage against tech champs? No, I don't think so. And I think it's pretty widely understood that Magneto was a mistake on a lot of levels. Not really, Freddy. We have the tech to be able to do that, but it probably would have been confusing to people. Caltrops Magneto does not sound fun. I might need to actually swap someone. And just when I got the crit rate hack so that Guillotine would be better. That does make me sad. Yeah, let's go Terrax. But then is that worth it, John? I'm not sure it is. Hey, Chris, welcome. That was stupid on my part. I was hoping we'd get a regen. Yeah, Chilth is a Kabam original. Um, she's almost like a Kabam original plus. Because we put a lot more work into making sure that she had lore and respected the culture that she came from than we did with a lot of our others. And it's not that we didn't care elsewhere, it's just like bluntly it's not that hard to make an edgy French woman appropriate, which is what Guillotine is. Were there any main inspiration from other characters for her? I believe there are some videos on this, and I think we talked about it in some live streams. Um, It's not that she's based on Red Wolf or inspired by Red Wolf. I can say that she did kind of begin her journey as a version of Red Wolf, and that like that's what we were originally going to pitch. And then we started changing that around a little bit, tried to improve it because there were some stereotypes in the old portrayal. And then eventually it kind of became, nah, let's really do this. And that's when we started um, like hiring First Nations artists and consultants to get it right. Ah, I'm sorry to hear that, Omega, but also very much not. I'm glad your sleep schedule is feeling good. I should have saved it until we were in Rockfield. You really want that guaranteed crit. Danny's a tough case. A lot of what's happening there is that her data's actually good, right? Like she's doing well. We probably could have gotten away with not touching her at all and been somewhat justified. Um, but we did want to give her a little something extra. And I think a large part of the thing with Danny is just that a lot of the people who are unhappy with where she is right now don't really enjoy playing her. Um, and they wish that they did, and they see things in the kit that could be a little different, that if they were, they would enjoy her more. And that's not really something that rebalancing is supposed to tackle. Um, not if the kit is functioning. I don't know, it's a tough one. Like every counter argument that's come or that could come back, trust me, I've heard it. I'm not really looking to get into that, but she's a tricky case there. Hey, Phil. What do you mean, Hanach? I feel like you may have gotten the wrong impression about something. Well, that's not an admission. That's just you being wrong. I understand you really think you've tested it fully, but you're just wrong. Okay, that's so you're asking when are champion buffs subject to rebalancing, which I think is a very different thing than what you first asked. I believe that's with Luke. If something egregious happens with Red Guardian, then I don't know, maybe we'll look at it, but the plan is for that to start with Luke. You jerk. This dude is really getting on my nerves. That's fair, Omega. It's definitely hard to keep track of everyone. Hey, Dom, how's it going? Oh, I did miss my Duolingo today. That's okay. It does sound like you're trying to put Sandpan in a box, Fell, and then you are upset when he doesn't fit in the box. I don't think that's a recipe for happiness when it comes to champion evaluation. Spanish, Omega. I was close to fluent in high school, and let it go. I've been slowly clawing it back. Hey, Odysseus, how's it going? Oh, why did I do that? We need to get grid up before we start doing fun things. New 7-star photon was pretty decent in Sector 5. Very cool. I've also played a little bit with French and German. I would like to get back into German. It was interesting. I had a friend once who was fluent in more languages and learned most of them late in life. And what she said was the trick to learning a third language without kind of scrambling your second. Because I have run into that before when I've tried to learn like French or something, it messes with my Spanish. She said use the second language to get into the third language. And so when I was learning German for a little bit, I was actually learning German in Spanish. And that did seem to help. It was kind of interesting. All right, we need to stop hitting him and bait out a special, or this is gonna get real hairy real quick. Yeah, honestly, Fell, most science champions just aren't really built for Necropolis. That's not the standard I would hold them to. Plays all his games in French. That's pretty cool. I haven't done that, but I like the idea of that. I have been meaning to go back and watch movies that I know in English in Spanish. Like the obvious one to start with would be Encanto. I think that'd be fun. Thanks for being a member, Odysseus. Ah, it shows up. Thank you for testing the layout as well. I appreciate that. I need to see if there's a way to set it up so that subscriber, like the recent subscriber, can be like recent supporter, and it can be either a subscriber or a member. I'm extremely new to Streamlabs, as all of you can tell, but it's gonna be something I'm thinking about going forward. Now we can watch more videos. Thanks, my friend. Double aspect of nightmares? Rude. Okay. I suppose we could use Terrax for her, but powerful from afar and biohazard sounds less than fun. Let's swap out Terrax for somebody that we want to take stealthy with. I do love Encanto. I think Encanto is probably better for me than Moana, but I respect your opinion, and I'm not going to push on that. I think it's a little bit personal. Who do I want to use here? Hmm. Yeah, let's finally bring her in. I wonder if the 50% will stack with the 5. Oh, it does. Oh, they don't? Oh, I see what you mean. I'm pretty sure the two different ones do. But yeah, I guess we will see. Whenever you do something with Kimura. It's funny to see the name of that show up in the Streamlabs chat. Oh, I missed it, Omega. Now, I understand what you mean. I was still talking, but thank you very much for being a member. I understand. Because, your name changed color. Thank you very much to both of you. Absolutely brutal. Not gonna call you a tryhard. I do think that's a little bit odd. Why is it your favorite? I'm curious. I'd forgotten about the read thumbs up. I know somebody has used it with before too long, but I just forgot what it was. It makes me happy. That's fair enough, Val. There's a lot of really good music in it. That's for darn sure. That was a pretty big number. What was that? I'm gonna have to watch this back. Okay, so the second hit was 97. Hey, Mom. Hey, Snoops. Well, we're in zone 14, so kind of. How do you get rid of Whiplash when fighting Quicksilver without taking damage? Obligatory, that's the neat part, you don't. But the goal is you parry, right? Well-timed blocks remove the Whiplash. Now, I understand all of the other layers to how difficult it is to remove that, but that is the goal. Oh god, what is this in? Hold on. What's the node? Oh, it's just that one. How did that not trigger one? Well, that'll do it. Started Midnight Suns today. Nice! Hope you enjoy it. It had been too long and I wanted to stream today, but I may not be streaming a ton this week because I also want to just randomly play some video games. Any reason the event quest costs so much energy per tile this month? Hasn't it been like that for a while? Costs more per tile, but is less overall. Long distance relationship, a vulnerability node that doesn't do anything, one eye open on somebody you want to stun, personal space, fury. Yep, sounds like they're making us work for it. All right, let's see. Power shield plus Atom sounds fine, so I think we can go through there. Let's swap out Chiel for somebody who can take Dragon Man a little bit better. Ooh, that'll do. Yeah, I know I need to play Hollow Knight. I need to play so many games. College apps to finish. You should do those. I'm gonna keep trying to use Moondragon because I'm having fun in here. Yeah. Oh my god, really? Vulture's like, no, I really don't want you to play Moondragon. I don't think you understand. uh if they ever I'm writing this down now before I forget because the AI being able to bounce off the back wall and therefore do intercepts where they normally wouldn't be able to is on my list of things that really bother me. Like I know it's not intentional that way, but it's so annoying. I should have just finished it out with her. I had another special too right there. But that was frustrating. Get wrecked. Can't say I care for the story so far, but I'm enjoying trying my first turn-based game like this. Hoping to get to a point where I can do encounters quicker and smoother. Yeah, I'm sure you will. There's a definite learning curve to the playstyle. And I will say, just kind of, I hope this doesn't bum you out too much, but ex- accept the story in Midnight Suns as a little bit campy. Like, it is kind of over the top world ending stuff, right? Think of it almost like a D&D campaign. Actually, yeah, that's a very good thing. Think of it almost like a D&D campaign. Your purpose there is to like interact with the various team members to learn how to combo them together in combat, to role play your own character, and to just kind of have fun in the Marvel universe. I love the game. Um, but it is not like a Mass Effect level story. And so it is good to kind of get that out of the way. I'm sorry to hear that, Amon. I knew about One Eye Open. Wasn't expecting it to do quite that much damage. Come on, buddy. Throw it. Beautiful. That's fair, Snoops. That is a bit of an era thing. I do hope it grows on you. It did on me by the end, but I get it. It helps that the villain is Jennifer Hale for me. That's good that you're okay with it. I wish you could do more than one mission in Midnight Suns before being forced back to base. I can't help my need to grind. See, the funny thing is that when I was playing through with my wife, it was very much the opposite. She's like, I actually am enjoying this story, but like, we're already on easy mode. I would like the option to skip some of the non story battles so that I can just go hang out with my friends and progress the story. It truly is a takes all types thing. That's funny, Omega. Yeah, it's definitely a little daunting. One thing to remember, Snoops, is I'm guessing you probably bought the bonus edition from what we were talking about, but maybe just start with the base game characters and come to the DLC ones later. Makes that much easier. Excuse me. The other thing is that in general, I think the Avengers are easier to use than the Midnight Suns, if that helps. Hey, TC, good morning. Good, solid, balanced pulls. Guess we could open some 6 stars. They're basically ISO at this point. Not bad. Surfer's max sig at least. So that's basically 1,000 shards. Gets us that much closer to another 7. Oh, one more thing I'm going to do before I go to bed. Cool. As you can tell by that, I am fairly committed to doing another Necropolis path before too long. Where are we on that? Yep, 31 left. Or 31 in stash. So that'll go well pretty soon. Yeah, 7-star Medusa would be cool. Alright, let me read back a little bit. Big plans? I like to think so. But I think Kabam is hesitant to make Heimdall a good attacker because synergy is so possible or powerful. It probably factors in. I haven't heard anybody say it. I think we just kind of haven't gotten around to him yet. Um, I'm sure that's part of it as an attacker. Part of it is that making Heimdall better would almost inevitably make him a better defender. And he's in enough story content that the QA load of updating him might be a little spooky. Kind of see how that goes. Robbie and Blade interest me the most, but Robbie seems kind of risky. Yeah, Robbie's fun. He definitely is a bit risky. I feel like he's one of the ones where his deck is a bit harder to build. Blade is a lot of fun. You can set up huge turns. My go-to duo was Nico and Magic. I just adored using them together. Still need to do my first. Oh, of Necropolis? Yeah, it's not that bad. Not the first one. But yeah, I'll go ahead and call it here. Thank you everybody for hanging out and for testing the layout. I think I like this. Might tweak it a bit, but a lot of the layouts I've seen I feel like are generally a bit too much for my taste. That's why I haven't done them yet. And this is pretty clean. So I think we're going to stick with something close to this going forward. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.